All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about what is, no joke, the bedrock of the entire audit profession, ISA 200. If you've ever wanted to know what the ultimate rule book for auditors really looks like, well, you're in the right place. Let's do this.
And honestly, that quote right there just nails it. This isn't an exaggeration. Think about it. Every single other auditing standard, every single rule or guideline an auditor follows has to answer to this one. It is the supreme law, the standard that sets the entire stage for everything else.
So, okay, if this thing is the Constitution, what's the fundamental law it's laying down? What is the core mission it demands from every single auditor on the planet? Well, it's actually beautifully simple. It all boils down to two main jobs.
And here they are. It's a two-step dance, really. First, an auditor's #1 job is to get what's called reasonable assurance. And don't worry, we're going to break down what that actually means in just a second. And then step 2, once they've done all their work, they have to report on what they've found. Simple, right? Investigate, then communicate.
Okay, let's zoom in on that phrase from the last slide. Reasonable assurance. The key word here is reasonable, not absolute. The standard is smart enough to know that financial statements aren't always what they seem. Misstatements can kind of play hide and seek. So an auditor's job isn't to be some kind of magician with a crystal ball. It's to do their absolute best to be confident that there are no material mistakes hiding in there.
And those misstatements? They basically come in two flavors. You've got the spicy kind, fraud. This is when someone is actively, intentionally trying to deceive people. And then you have the, let's call it the boring kind, just a simple error. An auditor has to be on the lookout for both, because at the end of the day, either one can cause a massive problem.
All right, so we get the mission, but ISA 200 goes way deeper than that. See, it doesn't just define the job, it defines the person who's doing the job. It lays out the specific character, the specific mindset an auditor has to bring to work every single day.
And these are the big ones. Integrity, objectivity, competence. I mean, let's be real. These are all things that we as humans can struggle with on a daily basis. But for an auditor, these aren't just, nice suggestions. They are absolute, non-negotiable requirements of the job.
And that brings us to what is maybe the most important mindset of all, professional skepticism. This is basically the never trust anything or anyone at face value part of the gig. It means you always have a questioning mind. You don't just accept answers, you challenge them, and you go looking for proof.
And I mean, this quote just says it all, right? It's a pretty unforgettable way to think about it. When management says something, the auditor's reaction isn't, oh, okay, cool. It's, show me. It's all about verifying and then, just to be safe, verifying again.
Now, right alongside that skepticism, you've got professional judgment. This is the standard's way of saying an audit is not just a glorified checklist. An auditor has to use all their experience, all their knowledge, and their training to make smart, informed decisions. It's basically their license to actually think for themselves.
So we've got the mission and we've got the mindset. Now let's talk about how these big ideas actually get put into action during a real audit. What are the rules of engagement when you're actually on the ground?
Well, the very first thing an auditor has to do is think like a strategist. They have to assess the risk by asking these two questions. Where could things go wrong, and just how bad could it be? They have to figure out where management might, forget things, or where errors are most likely to pop up. And then they build their entire audit plan around those high-risk spots.
And when they go digging in those areas, the evidence they collect has to meet a really high standard. It can't just be someone's word for it. The proof has to be sufficient, meaning there's enough of it, and appropriate, meaning it's high quality. Because, and this is crucial, management said so is never, ever good enough. You need the receipts.
Okay, so after all these super strict rules and high expectations, ISA 200 hits us with a big dose of reality. It introduces this idea of inherent limitations, which is basically the standard admitting that even the most perfectly executed audit has its limits.
Yeah, tragic, I know. But auditors are not superheroes. This is the standard's way of managing everyone's expectations. An audit gives you that reasonable assurance we talked about, not a 100% guarantee of perfection. And that's because the process itself has these limits built right in.
And here are just a few of those reasons why. Sometimes, fraud schemes are just so crafty and sophisticated that they're designed specifically to be invisible to an auditor. Then you've got the real-world stuff, right? Like tight budgets and deadlines. You've got the fact that humans are messy and make mistakes. And of course, there's always the chance that management could be actively hiding information.
So, you might be thinking, okay,
If there are all these limitations, why are all these rules so important? What's the point of this whole demanding constitution in the first place? Well, it's all about creating a system of trust and reliability.
And I mean, this analogy just says it all. Can you imagine? Without a shared set of rules, every audit would be completely different. There'd be no consistency, no way to rely on anything. Investors, the public, nobody would have any idea what an audit opinion actually meant. It would just be total chaos.
And that really is the bottom line. ISA 200 provides that essential structure. It makes sure that when a company says it's been audited, everyone involved, the auditors, the company, the public, we're all playing by the exact same rulebook. That's what makes the whole thing credible.
And that leaves us with this final question to think about. We know an audit can't promise perfection because of all those built-in limits. So what does that seal of reasonable assurance really promise us? Well, it promises a rigorous, professional, and skeptical process that's designed to give us the highest level of confidence possible. It's not a guarantee, but it is the bedrock of financial trust.